I like to think the win path actually does matter a lot. We've seen a bunch of different videos looking at the orcs all over the internet this whole week. Pretty much no one looked at their win path, you know? And it's like, well, what was actually beating them and losing to them? And that's what we're going to see today. So we have Jeff Jew. Jeff Jew is the only person who actually won the GT with the orcs. Yes, he's running Bully Boyz. And he had 6 games in this GT at the Lotus Dice Games. So a lot of games, very interesting. We're going to go over what he went into. Just a sneak peek, he did go into Tyler Russo down here at number 4. Tyler still ended up in 4th place with 2 losses because of 6 games, and all the games he won, he put up nasty points, and he didn't really get dogged in any of his scores. So we'll take a look at his list. I won't cover his win path because he'll probably do a video on his own about it, and we could just see what he says. But I will take a look at his list and think some commentary because Jeff did have to face him. So let's take a look at Jeff Jew list. He called it Ork Stoties. Very suiting name, very fittable name. I appreciate that. So he has 1 Snickra, a Pain Boy, a Warboss in Mega Armor, and then another Warboss in Mega Armor. Interestingly enough, the Big Gob, I think, is nice when you can pay for it. Definitely something to always be contested for, especially with, let's say Green Tide, for example, being able to completely overrun you, but you hope Big Gob comes into place. You get some primary. Also here, we're going to shout out is that he has a Warboss and a Pain Boy. So this is something our community straight up jumped on right away and said, maybe 20-man unit of boys might be where it's at. So you can see here 20 boys he had on his list. If you watch our video on how to use the Ork Boy Mob unit, you can see that someone with very high level of play can use his Boy Mob to just take over the whole middle of the table or just tag a bunch of different things. That's why I think it's so important for Bully Boyz. Instead of just all meat, you can run through the different kind of chaff and screening units that are going to be there. So yeah, especially with the Pain Boy, you made him extra reliable. So another thing we see is 1, 2, 3, 4 trucks. So one thing I'm going to say is he didn't pay as much for characters, but still pretty heavy on characters, but still found the points for the trucks and the Bully Boy units. 3 units of Gretchen. Some people might see this as too much. What it is you can reserve 1 or even 2 of these Gretchen units, or the fact that you have 2 Gretchen units means that you become immune almost to 3-inch deep strikes from demons, from Grey Knights, from Hyper Crypt. So that's where you can kind of actually use these guys and intertwine them, or just follow around the Mega Knob so you can actually have OC on an objective. That could be a thing too. And do secondaries, of course. 3 units of Mega Knobs. He went all twin kill saws. That's what I like to see. So then a big unit of Knobs with the Power Claw. Of course, we like to call that the Scalpel unit because that's how you gut out the enemy's big problematic unit for the most part. 1 unit of Knobs, 5-man unit, which is also good for, but that's more of like a skirmish into power armor specifically. And then 2 units of Storm Boys because you got to have stuff that can easily deploy. So I liked all the trucks. Again, we see this with multiple of these Bully lists where they're bringing a lot of trucks. I don't see the value necessarily in a battle wagon. Not that you can't, because we'll see somebody who did. But I think I'm a little more favored to more trucks because then you just have more. And even with this 20-man unit of boys, you see that he does not have a battle wagon. So just wanted to point that out there as we go forward about his matchups. So let's take a look at Jeff Jew's matchup win path. So he said we got right off the bat, he went to another Bully Boyz unit. So the mirror, which he actually had to do twice at this event. We have at this Bully Boyz list, we have a Ghazghkull Thraka and a Snickra, a Pain Boy, a Warboss, another Warboss, and a Weird Boy. Liking mega bosses. 1 big 20-man unit of boys. I like to see that. You can see that he's trying to proc off Gaz's lethal twice for the boys unit. 3 trucks, so good amount of trucks still. 2 Grotz units, only 1 Kill Mega Nobz unit. That's for Gaz, which I think between right here, as you can see, he has twin kill saws. I actually advise the power claws when you're sticking him with Gaz, as you get the +1 to wound from that, and you still, of course, +1 hit, but you also get the lethals going off on 5s. That makes up for all the lack of, strength and somewhat the AP, and then that the twin kill saws give you, because you should just have more volume of wounds putting through. So I would actually slightly favor that. You still get a little bit of the guns, so just a little bit, but both are fine. 2 big units of Knobs, because I like 3 big units of Knobs. I lied. 3 big units of Knobs with power claws. I like that. Storm Boys, and then War Bikers. So he just didn't have all the Mega Knobs. I think Mega Knobs are huge for their feel no pains. Very hard to dislodge for other Ork units, as you actually get saves and they kind of don't, or they're stuck on the 5-ups. And that just can't go all the way other way sometimes. And I'm not sure if Gaz is worth it in Bully Boyz. Just saying it now. The more I think about it, the more I look at it, I'm really feeling him for Warhorde. Maybe the meta will change and he'll be needed in Bullies, but I don't think he's needed in the Bullies. I think he's almost Warhorde exclusive. The more that time is going on, the more people are not sure about it. Green Tide might be different about that, right? So let's take a look at his second game. He went into Eldar. Again, we have more Eldar in here. We do have the Avatar of Cain, the Altark Wayleaper, a Death Jester, Farseer, Spy Runner, and a Spirit Seeder. Guardian Defenders, Dark Reapers for their good damage, Falcon, just little cheap shooting guns and feeling good. Fire Dragons, okay, trying to bring some fusion guns to us, okay. Shroud Runners, Striking Scorpions, Warlock Conclave, Wind Riders, and Wraithblade. So remember when Wraithblades were the bullies, guys? You're like, we fight on death, we're hard to kill. Yeah, not necessarily for Bully Boyz as much. I'm sure they can put up something, but when you just have so many knobs, it's just you're running everything else over while you're stuck in a fight with them, and you have 4 Feel No Pains now. This is a bit more challenging list. I do appreciate this list because he is trying to hold the line in a way that some of the other ones aren't. Yet he does not have the indirect fire to slow down a orc unit. That would be, yeah, he does not. That would be a, I think it's Night Spinner. That would be a big debuff. So if you're going into Eldar, you know, if they have Night Spinners, they can slow down your orc units. That could be a big factor if they can still pop your transports. Having a lot of transports does help though, guys. That's something I just want to bring up. Having a good amount like we could do here really does help. But it just seems like at the moment with Bully Boyz durability, we can just kind of walk people down. Certain armies we can walk people down just for having, you know, he has 4 trucks and he has the boys on foot and the Feel No Pains. It's just one of those things that I could see Eldar just not being able to just carry the offensive fire there, and you're still closing the distance too quick for them to even do combined arms into you as Eldar. Yeah, so that was his third list. Yeah, so here's a third player now we're going into, which is another Eldar player. And like I said, for the most part, Eldar players are like, I'll put warp spiders in your way, I'll pop your transports, I'll wait till you WAAAGH, and then I'll annihilate you after that. Well, if I got 2 turns of WAAAGh and advancing and charging, you can sit in the back of the board until I'm done. You don't score it all, and then you can just try to do combined arms to me, and you die in the combat part. So it's a very hard one, I would think, in some ways for the Eldar. Death Jester, Farseer Skyrunner, Vizark, Yavrin, Rangers, support weapons, Swooping Hawk, Trope, Warwalkers. And Warwalkers can try to hold a line too, but just still not versus Orcs. We get so much volume of attacks that we're still putting just enough to do for their low wound count. Warp Spiders, and then we have the Beastmaster, some Cabalite Warriors, more Cabalite Warriors, multiple Venoms. So he still tried. He still, but like I said, none of this is fighting you for primary, and you're just sitting at the table and closing the distance slowly. And at some point, the Eldar player realizes, oh my God, I'm never going to score. I'm going to have to stay on the objectives. I start getting beat up. You know, just saying that the Eldar players might stick back to Night Spinners just to debuff our movement in that case. Now, the matchup I'm interested for is the Space Puppers. We have a Stormlance Task Force here, boys. So he had to go into Stormlance Task Force, and shout out, he got 100 points. Let's see what it looked like. Logan, Grimnar, and Storm Rider. Wolfguard Battle Leader all over there. Thunder, Wolf Lord, another Wolf Lord. So he did go heavy on the characters, doubling up on some of them for their packs. Assault Intercessor Jump Packs 1-2. Scout Unit, Thunderwolf Calves, only 1 Scout Unit. 3 Thunderwolf Calves, and then 3 big units of Wolfen and the Caladian Assassin. So 3 big units of Wolfen, 3 big units of Thunderwolf Cavalry. This is bringing all the pain. This is bringing all the heat with just a little bit of skirmishing. But this is where I would hope and I would think that because of the lopsided score, even though it wasn't lopsided, I guess it was 25 points, but being able to score 100 is a big factor. He possibly went first here too. Not that I'm trying to hang so much on you go first, but it seems like for Thunderwolf Cavalry for this matchup, you know, them going first and kind of hoping to lock you in Wolf Chill is a factor. With Bully Boyz, you might be able to chew through them, but the other factor is you can fight on death with them, and they take a lot to chew through Mega Nobz, even with their buffs and their and everything like that. Their buffs from their characters and multi-damage into the Space Wolves. The real issue is that they have low AP in Space Wolves, meaning the Mega Nobz can just spike on saves and then spike on Feel No Pains, and they're in a dark place. Thunderwolves, you know, are doing great. Space Wolves are doing great. I think Bully Boyz kind of still eat them up. You know, it will take some cheeky Space Wolf players to deny the Orcs enough, and in that case, it just seems like Orcs will just kind of beat them overall with fighting for that. It's just they have good OC too, so you still got to be careful. Now going into their 5th game, he went into Sisters of Battle. So Sisters of Battle have been shaking up the meta for a bit, so let's see what's going on here. Canoness, Demon Fugue, Demi-Fugue, sorry I said that wrong. Saint Celestine, oh, she brought a Saint Celestine back, and then Triumph of Saint Catherine, that's good for the dice. Battle Sisters, Emulators, Sororitas, 2 Arcoflagellants, 3 Castigators, Castle Sacrosaints, some Penitent Engines, 2 of them. Seraphim, Zeraphim. This is where using the big mob of boys and then using the truck, in my opinion, help you so that you can stop the sisters and all these little units from coming in on the sides of the table to continue to play the game as you bully them off the middle. Castigators, you'd be like, man, these are pretty good. They're not they're not as good if you're running Mega Nobz and you can reduce their AP by 1 and then just stand in cover. You're like, I'm just not dying to your Castigators. Sorry. Arcoflagellants, volume does work, but Fiodo Pains and having still a great armor save after that. And they just don't have enough like of their melta-guns, which typically could hurt a lot into Bully Boyz, and I'm just not seeing enough units to have melta-guns really built in. They just have one battle sister squad. Saint Celestine's going to try to get into a fight. She's going to get run over and then just keep getting sent to the Ork grinder. So great to see him pull that out. That's an 84-point win. Now we get to see Tyler Russo's list, as he did have to face Jeff. They both played Bully Boyz, so let's see the difference. We know we'll take one more look at Mr. Jeff's list for just to shake it up so you guys remember. But it was Snickrop, 3 war bosses, Pain Boy, 2 war bosses in Mega Armor, 4 truck, 33 Gretchen, max Mega Nobz, a big brick of Nobz, and then 1 small unit of Nobz followed by 2 Storm Boys. And as we look, let me get rid of some of these. Tyler Russo's list, he has the Bully Boy. So he has War Boss, and then another War Boss with Ed Stompa, and just 1 War Boss in Mega Armor with the Teleporter. So we can already see a difference here in the characters, which ones he chose to bring. You don't see a Snickrot, you don't see max Mega Nobz, characters, so that's interesting. 2 units of boys. I do like just basic unit of boys because you do love the sticky, and maybe a skirmish with the war boss. 3 trucks, still a good amount, and then a battle wagon, but not 1 but 2 battle wagons. So he's going extra thick on the transports. 2 units of Gretchen followed by 3 units of Mega Nobz. As we seen though, they don't have the characters. Then yeah, I triple check this. Yeah, he doesn't have all the other characters for the war bosses, the Mega Nobz. It's really just some Mega Nobz on their own. So it's more like they're delaying deterrent, standing in the way. They're unreliably killing anything without their leader support for +1 to hit. So this big unit, I'm sure, is the one that goes with the Teleporter. 2 small units of Nobz, and then another unit of Nobz followed by 2 Storm Boys. So right off the bat, I appreciate his creativity. Someone else pointed out that maybe the battle wagons are for shooting, keeping you safe, stuff like that. I think having more characters for your actual Mega Nobz to get the most value so you can actually hit or just regen is still a bit more value than double wagons. Maybe 1 wagon might be still worth it. It is multi-purpose and such. I just think having trucks and more stuff and having the more characters for reliable output would also be a bit more of a factor. And a big unit of Nobz helps actually scalpel out a problematic enemy unit. 2 5-man units I find just give you a good skirmish, but anything that's actually kind of tough might actually bounce off it. Yeah, and Bully Boyz, they're very, very vital. I'm just saying, when you only have those and no big ones, I don't know how I feel about just only 5-man units of Nobz. So still a very good lift, as Tyler still did really good. But it's very off. You can see why he's trying it. He off the wall because he chose, I'm not going to bring character support for that. So I'm sure he'll give a good explanation for that. He's very smart. And I like how he just kind of goes for it, how he feels like playing. So shout outs for bringing the boys still, as I think boys are very important to the Bully Boy detachment, and people sometimes don't want to pay the boy tag. So I think that's going to be for the Bully Boyz we're going to be covering. So last thoughts on the Bully Boyz before we look at the Green Tide. Bully Boyz does have some losing options that they can still lose, as we've seen with some of these lists that we went over. But as for the most part, you can just go a straight win path of there's factions that can't do anything to you and you're closing the distance, considering that, 1, some people play MSU armies, so they're just running around trying to score and ignore you. Well, if you're advancing and charging twice, which is a huge fat part of the game, you have enough bodies and transports to fill up the field. They're not really going to reserve in any great spots, and if they do, they might just get ran over anyways and eaten. And in that case, if they sit back for too long and give you all the primary, then they're not really contesting with you, and they've won anyway by turn 3 because you won anyway by turn 3 because you still have the primary. So Bully Boyz just putting up these really, really good scores, and then if they lose, they still pull up moderately really good scores. So I think something to just keep an eye out is, will the meta adjust to bringing stuff that can delay and then one-shot us later? So a bunch of little things with a couple nuke units, or is everybody going to go straight infiltrators and just try to hold us back? So think about that when you're going into boys and the Bully Boyz. But right now, Bully Boyz are where it's at. If you enjoyed the clip, check out the full video here. If you'd like to see more tactics, click here.
Let's get stuck in, lads!